Hi, everybody. Welcome to the November 28th, 2018 Your Living Brand Live show. My name is Ben Baker and my company is Your Brand Marketing. Now, every week, this show talks about value. It talks about communicating value, about who you are, what you do, why you do it, who you do it for, and most importantly, why those people should care. Because when people understand your value, you stop being a commodity and you start being a brand worth loving. People understand why they should do business with you. And every week we bring another guest on, and that guest tells us a little bit about what they do, why they do it, and why people care about them. This week I've got Judy Hoberman on the show, and she's got a company called Selling in a Skirt. Judy will take you through the process of understanding that, you know what, we may be different, but we are equal. And we think about things differently, but that doesn't make one better and doesn't make one worse. So sit back, enjoy the show, and I'll be back afterwards to say goodbye. Judy, it is always great seeing you again. Look at that smile on her face. I love seeing that smile.
I love being here. This is exciting. I was waiting for today.
Well, you know what? It was great. I mean, we just did your show. I mean, and you are a rock star. You are absolutely a rock star. I love being on your iHeartRadio show. You know, I'm getting nothing but compliments out of it. And so, you know, I had to return the favor. I love, but you know what? We talked about this weeks and months ago. So it's about time to finally have you on the show.
Absolutely. Totally agree. So thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My absolute pleasure. So, I mean, you know about the show, but just in case people, you know, are first-time listeners to the show, this show is all about how do you add value. You know, what do you do? Why do you do it? Who do you do it for? Mostly, why do people care? Mm-hmm. So I love the name Selling in a Skirt. I think it's a great name. It's memorable. It's a huge brand, and you've done a really good job about it. So tell me about Selling in a Skirt. Tell me about, you know, what was the impetus for it? Where are you now and where are you going?
So I have always been in male-dominated industries since I'm little. Everything I've done has been around the world of men. And when I went through the ranks in insurance, nobody wants to take me seriously at all. They told me I was too much of a girl. I asked too many questions. I took too long. Everybody had to be my friend, blah, 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 blah. And what I was doing was building relationships.
Right.
And so once I started showing some kind of power that I really understood what I was talking about and I can influence people and I was making a name for myself, all of a sudden people started listening to me, which was very unusual. There were no women, none. It was me. In 44 states, it was me. So as I started to be a little bit more successful, I became the company and the country mentor. And so whenever anybody had a female coming in for an interview, they would call me and say, can you talk to her? You know, she's a single mom just like you, and so on and so forth. And then I started starting to recruit. And when I was recruiting, a lot of women came in. Unusual. I wasn't asking for it. It just came in. And so I brought in a lot of women, but I also brought in a lot of men because I don't.
But you also brought in a lot of talented women is what you brought in.
Totally. Oh, yeah. I do. Yeah. I mean, I, you know, when people say to me, oh, so you would just rather have women than qualified. No, that's not me at all.
No.
Because I'm still in business. So, you know, I had a lot of women, I had a lot of men, I had a lot of people that were actually doing what they were supposed to do, which was staying, making appointments, making money, and so on. And so the CEO of the company came to my office. I had 3 different agencies, and he said, I don't know what you're doing. People are staying, you're making money. I don't understand it, blah, 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 blah. And then he asked me to come inside into the corporate office and build a training for the entire company and the entire country. Yeah.
And how long was this journey? Is this like a couple-year journey, a 5-year journey? Like
so this was from 1990 until 2000. I want to say 7.
Okay, so there was a lot of
Oh,
time
yeah. And I went
spent a lot of time in the trenches there.
Yeah, I did. And I actually went from not knowing anything about insurance, not being licensed, to going all the way up the ranks. And so, but you have to pay your dues. You don't just come in and say, well,
Absolutely.
I'm female and I want to do this. It doesn't work like that. So anyway, so I moved to Dallas and I built all the training. I built a university. I did everything that I needed to do. I loved working with the people in the field because they all knew me.
Right.
And, you know, when somebody has a reputation that you can follow and you show up, they're, you know, like, feed me, tell me, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Tell me more.
So what was happening inside corporate is very different when you're inside than what happens when you're outside. Yeah. When you're outside, they love you. Oh, we love the agents. When you're inside, they hate you because you make too much money.
Hmm.
And I would say to them, do you realize that the reason that you have jobs is because they're out there doing what you don't want to do? Anyway, 2 years later, I couldn't do it anymore. It was so toxic that I was physically getting ill. And
Right.
so I jumped ship when they wouldn't let me at first, but when they finally let me, I jumped ship and wasn't sure what I was going to do. But I knew that I needed to do something about women.
Okay.
So I sat down and I said, okay, if I was starting right now all over again, what would I have wanted? I would have wanted a female mentor because we had none. I had great men. Men would teach me the most amazing things in business, but they weren't somebody that looked like me.
Right.
So I decided I was going to start my company, and it was going to be about sales because I was in sales, and
Hmm.
it was going to be about women. And it was also going to be about the men that champion women. So I thought, okay, what do I call myself? I'm in sales, so it has to be something about selling. I am female, so it has to be something feminine. So selling in a skirt was
Right.
what I came up with. Everybody remembers selling in a skirt. I don't know if they'll ever remember Judy Hoberman. It doesn't matter, but they all remembered selling in a skirt. From years, people would say to me, I heard you speak 5 years ago. You're selling in a skirt. Right. So I started my company and I do coaching and training. I do executive coaching. I teach sales training. I also do leadership training.
Right.
And obviously I have a radio show as well. And it's just, I do all the things that get the message out about what it means to be a female in business. But don't forget that there's also men attached, because the one thing that I don't want anybody to ever think is that because I'm for women means I'm against men. I'm not.
Hmm.
My tagline is women want to be treated equally, not identically. So just give us the same opportunities and let us go. That's really what it is. So that's how the name came about, and that's what I do.
And I love that because, it's the different but equal, because we
Right,
are,
right.
you're not better than I am. I'm not better than you are. We both
Just
have,
different.
we're different.
Right.
You have a background in a way that you were brought up. I have a way that I was brought up. Each one makes us who we are. Each one taught
Absolutely.
us different lessons. Each one gave us different experiences. Each one gave us different abilities. But it doesn't mean that yours are better than mine or mine are better than yours.
No.
But it's neat because the more people can understand that,
Hmm.
the better off we are, because there are some incredible women leaders. And I'm not this is not a hooray women type thing. This is, people are people, and good people. It doesn't matter if they're black, they're white, they're men, they're women, they're gay, they're straight, whatever. People are people, and the people that are good at what they do need to be celebrated.
Absolutely. And I used to team the men and women up together,
Yeah.
because like you as a male, and I'm just being a big generalization, most men make decisions faster than women. Women like
Yes.
to collaborate, women want to get a buy-in.
Yes, I'm
So if you
married, so I understand this. Yes.
Right. So when we were out selling insurance, which is not a tangible product, you can't touch it, you can't smell it, you can't do anything. You have to be able to tell the story, but you also have to be able to come back and start to talk about how do we put this in place. And
Hmm.
sometimes women get caught up in building the relationship and having the stories and everything else, and they forget to come back. For the purpose of the meeting was to put this in place. And sometimes the man would be able to say, okay, so let's talk about how we can put this in place. I mean, it's as
Right.
simple as that. And so for me, it was a really good eye-opening experience for the men and the women, because they got to learn about building relationships and they got to learn about making decisions and all these other things. And so my teams were very successful.
That's great. Somebody told me the other day, I wish I could remember who it was. He says he's got both a male and a female mentor.
It was, you were on the show with me, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was the other guest.
It
Remember?
was the other
Yeah,
guest.
yeah,
It was the
yeah,
other guest. And
she,
that's right.
yeah,
And she had a male and a female mentor. And I thought, this is brilliant. This is
absolutely.
a brilliant, it's a yin yang type thing, because you're going to learn different things from the different people. They're going to have different points of view. They're going to have different perspectives. They're going to talk to you a little differently.
Right.
And it's when you can mash those two points of view together, that, and bring them into with who you really are, that you succeed. So
Right.
I think that that's a
Absolutely.
really cool thing.
Yeah, I thought that was brilliant. And I wrote it down, and I talk about it as well. And I always say, so one of my guests always said, she has male and female, and I think it's brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So when you're working with corporations, how does the conversation start? Because people sit there and say, they might have the blind spot, oh, you're coming to talk to the women in our company.
They
And
always say that.
which I'm sure they do. I mean, with the name selling in the skirt, with the way that your website is built, this, that, everything. But really, you're in there teaching sales technique, what you really are is teaching, leadership technique, and how do you get beyond that? Because there is there is something with the name selling in a skirt that leads people to think, oh, wait a second, she's just talks to women.
Right.
So how do you move beyond that and get people to understand your your unisex value, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, gender.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Gender equity.
Gender.
Yeah. So one of the things I'll do is I'll say, so you want to come in and talk to the women in the company? I say, yes. And I want to talk to the men. And they go, really? Why? And I said, well, how's communication with the male and the women? And they're like, well, sometimes they don't get each other. I said, oh, okay. And how is it when they're going on appointments? Or how is it when, leadership, the female is the boss and the male is the subordinate, or vice versa? How
Yeah.
is that communication? Well, they could use some help on it. I'm like, that's what I do. That's what I do. I talk about communication. I talk about trust, respect, and all the other leadership qualities, but the biggest one is communication. And by the way, when you're a leader, you're also an influencer, which means you're also a salesperson.
Absolutely.
When you are, right? And so I talk about that, yeah, we can use all these different words if people don't want to be salespeople, but we're all salespeople.
We're all salespeople. I don't care if you're the janitor of a company or the CEO.
That's right.
Everybody is selling something,
But they don't want to be
you're
known
selling
as
yourself
it.
first and foremost.
Exactly, but they don't want to be known as that.
No.
So I talk about, okay, so tell me what do your leaders do? How do they influence people? I said, absolutely. And so we're going to show how the men and women influence each other.
Yes.
I just changed the words, but you're right, because a lot of times they'll say to me, so you're here just about the women? Mm-mm. No. And then, sometimes they'll say, well, why do we need to have women? Well, we're over 50% of the population.
Yes.
And there are women that are incredibly smart, which years ago you would never say that. You didn't want to be known as smart. But also we talk about different perspectives, what women bring to the table. If you look at Catalyst has surveys about bringing women into leadership positions, what that means for the company, higher rate ROIs and stock options go up because there's women that give you this and this and this. And it's amazing. But most of the time, the first thing they'll say to me is, I don't have to bring my men because selling in a skirt. I mean, I'll tell you, I was just in a meeting where I had all the women.
Yeah.
And somebody else had all the men. And so one of the women came in late to my portion of the meeting. And I said to her, she said, I apologize, I'm late, but I had gone into the other room and they told me I didn't need that. And I said, well, what are they talking about? And they said they were talking about how to speak to female advisors. And I said, and do you know how to speak to female advisors? She said, not 100%. And I'm surprised I didn't get to sit there. That's what happens. They make the divide, and so you have to come and bring them back together and say, just because we're female doesn't mean we know how to speak to women.
Well, and that's just it. And and I can say the same thing about me. There's certain types of men that I probably have a blind spot to. Right. The guys that sit there, no offense, that sit there and talk sports all day long, my eyes go rolling to the back of my head. And I don't know every statistic on every player and
you don't want to,
and I don't care.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, get a little misguided about that. They say, well, what, he's a guy. How come he can't have these conversations with me? Well, those aren't the conversations I want to have. But I also need to understand that if they want to have those conversations, they need to be allowed to have them.
Yeah.
And, and that goes cross gender, cross boundaries, whatever, is to be able to sit there and say, it's not about me. It's about the person I'm in the room with.
That's right.
And what's important to them. So
yeah.
Tell me about, you picked up this binder before we got on the air. You picked up this binder, and I tell you, it's like you gave birth or something like that. This thing is huge. Tell me about this course that you're doing, because I'm really excited about it.
So I wrote a book, Walking on the Glass Floor. This is my book.
Yeah.
And the book is all about the qualities of leadership. And there's 7 qualities that I put into the book. And I decided that, my mission has always been to help one woman a day. And, every time I'd say it, people would raise their hand and say, can I be your woman today? Can, whatever. And so then I thought, well, why can't we do something a little bit bigger? Mm-hmm. And we thought, let's put together a training program. So the training program, while the guts of it is about the book, it's also about men that champion women. It's about
Right.
why are we having this conversation? It's 2018, almost 19, and we're still having this conversation about bringing more women in. And how do you continue this? How do you redefine your culture? How do you actually go to that next level and bring more women in and have more men to self-identify and so on and so forth? So we put together a training program called Empowering Equal Not Identical Leadership.
Right.
And it's based off my tagline, women want to be treated equally, not identically.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the most amazing training that I have ever been through, myself and others. When I had my Train the Trainer a couple of weeks ago, we had 10 people in the room, all certified trainers, and some of them were crying. I always cry when I go through it because it's amazing. But they were saying, I didn't know this about myself, because what you find out is why you do the things you do. Like, one of it's about passion. And so what's your purpose, and why are you doing this, and how do you treat people, because what are your core values? And so you learn so much about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and how you treat yourself and you treat others is going to be a reflection of how your business is, how your company is, how the culture is. So it's amazing. I mean, really seriously amazing. And so we're bringing it into all different industries where they're talking about women and actually want to do something. Because there's companies that'll say, oh yeah, we're all about women, and they do nothing. We
Right.
want people to be proactive to do this, not reactive.
Well, there's too many people that are out there that are sitting there going, okay, we're going to check the woman box.
Right. That's what they
Or
did
we're
with
going to
me.
check the minority box or whatever.
Right.
It says, okay,
Right.
we've got 3 women in the sales, in the sales.
And now we're good. Yeah.
1 woman on the board of directors. Okay, we've checked the box.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
don't just sit there and don't talk to us, but at least you're there. We'll pay you a salary so we can have your picture
Right.
on the board of directors picture. But that's not what it's about. It's
No.
about real diversity. I look at it and I talk to my clients because in branding we talk about green versus greenwashing.
Mm-hmm.
Are you really wanting to be green? Do you really want your company to be green, or do you want to be perceived as being green?
Right. Right.
And that's what companies need to realize, because in today, your brand has to be authentic.
Absolutely.
It has to be authentic. In the world of the internet, it is too easy for people to call a lie a lie.
Absolutely. And it spreads like that.
Yeah, and it spreads immediately. And you look at things and go, and it's not what you believe it is. It's what other people it is. I don't know if Drake was in Vancouver the other day, and there was something, and he wasn't being treated the way, or his team wasn't being treated the way they thought it was, and he is now screaming that that he was racially profiled. Well, whether he was or he wasn't is
Doesn't
immaterial. There's now God knows how many million fans of Drake that are seeing that this casino was racially profiling Drake. Whether it's true or it's not true, whether it was a misconception, whether it was misunderstanding, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
The perception is the reality.
Absolutely.
And if we don't, as companies realize that, and if we don't, work to be what we truly, if we say we're going to do something, then do it. Don't just give lipstick on a pig.
Right.
If you're going to say we're going to create an equal opportunity workplace, it better be an equal opportunity workplace, or else your brand is ruined.
Right. Right.
Your brand is you might as well throw it in the garbage and start again.
Right, because you cannot. I mean, once it happens, it's over, and that's why I say we would rather be proactive than reactive. And one of the things that we're going to be able to do is, after we do this training and we come into the company and we support them to redefine their culture, we're going to be able to certify them.
Great.
And as a women-friendly company,
Mm-hmm.
and go back in and make sure that the things that they said they were going to do, they're actually doing. Not just say, okay, here's your sticker, you're good.
So you'll do the audits. You'll come back and do audits.
Yep. Because, one of the things that happens is when a woman looks for a position, she becomes a detective.
Yes.
And so she goes onto the website and she looks at the brand and she looks at the culture and she looks at the advancement and she looks at the training and she looks to see, is there anybody that looks like me?
Right.
And if there isn't anybody that looks like me, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And so then all of a sudden there's that pushback. Well, you don't have anybody, so are you against women, or are you against this, or whatever? So our team is very diverse also. It's not just a bunch of women. It isn't. It's male, female, young, old, different experience, different demographics. We have everything, because we want to make sure that if we're saying we're encouraging diversity, then we better be
You
diverse.
better be diverse. Yeah.
Right. Right. And so, I mean, I think that's also something that we were very careful about, because I know for a fact there was a company that wanted to hire me to help them bring women in. And so when I asked them why, he said, well, just go to our website and tell me what you think and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I go to the website and they won some awards for sales, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see their executive team was 12 men that were exactly the same. The only thing that was different was their tie.
All wearing the typical black suit, with different color ties, but that was basically.
Same age, same, everything. So I called him back and, first I complimented them on all their awards and he liked that because that meant I did my homework.
Yeah.
And then I said to him, so let me ask you again, why do you want to bring women in? And he said, well, women, that's the buzzword. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, this is what he said. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, everybody's talking about women, so we might as well have some. And I said, okay, so are you going to do any mentoring, any training, any coaching, anything? He said, no. And I said, so when they fail, not if, when they fail, what are you going to do? He said, there's millions of women. We'll just get more. And I told him I didn't think that I was the right
You're
person.
definitely not the right person for that one.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And then he told me, he called me all kinds of names and said that I was really an idiot because he was offering me all this kind of money and I didn't take it. And I said, well, two things. Number one, it would be like blood money for me because I'm setting people up for failure. But
Yeah.
number two, you just gave me another check mark, a confirmation that I shouldn't be in your company. And he hung up on me. Right?
Well,
So that's what I'm saying.
greenwashing versus great, being green.
Exactly.
Right there.
Walk the walk, talk the talk, but
Yeah.
don't tell me, I want women are the buzzword. So yeah.
Yeah. And, in the branding world, I mean, you look at advertising, we look at advertising marketing, and when there was 12 white men that approve this ad, you don't even have to ask.
Right.
There was no cultural diversity. There was no women involved. There was no, people of color involved. There was no, gay versus straight involved. It was 12 men sitting in a room and saying, yep, that ad looks great. And you can tell.
Yep.
You can tell whether it's the ad agency or whether it's the client side. You can tell that there wasn't the thought process of, we live in a multicultural world. We live in a society where there's men, there's women, there's gay, there's straight, there's white, there's black, there's whatever. And you need to be thinking about this when you're communicating. And whether it's internal communication or external communication, you really need to be thinking that way.
But you also want to have diversity of thought.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that people forget. Just they're thinking, well, I have a few people that are not like me. They look differently, so I'm diverse. But you need diversity of thought, because if you want all yes people, I mean, what's that? First of all, it's boring, and second of all, you're never going to grow because everybody's like, yeah, that's good, yeah, that's good. So I mean, I just think that there's so many opportunities for both of us, but I think there's so many opportunities for companies to grow as a company and make sure that the culture is right, because culture starts at the top. If the person at the top doesn't want to change, it's never going to change.
Never going to change. Never going to change. So what's next? What are you excited about? What's the next thing for you?
The training is my next thing. My training is, I mean, we are so excited about this that I think 2019 is going to be like lights out. It's going to be we're going to see it everywhere because we want to create a movement. And this is totally going to create the movement. And we also, we have a nonprofit attached to the book. So when we sell books, especially bulk orders, a portion of it goes back to foundations and charities and scholarships, and so we can help the underserved and the underprivileged. We can go into an area where they don't have enough money for leadership training, and we can be able to offer to them and empower young women or even older women, and just make sure that they have the same opportunities.
That's great. Yeah, because a friend of mine is heavily involved in an organization that brings women back into the workforce. So people that have been, taking care of aging parents, people that have been, with small children, whatever, but they've been out of the workforce for 4 or 5 years, And they sit there and say, well, I don't have any skills. I've been out of the workforce. No, you've got incredible skills.
Right. And I hate when people say that. I'm just a housewife. No,
I'm
you're
just
not. You're the CPA, you're the nurse, you're the chauffeur, you've got all of this. If you added up all of those skills and
yeah.
the dollars that go with it, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what people don't understand. It's your skill set.
Yeah.
It's not your title. Titles don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
It's the skills that you have and the lessons that you've learned and the things that you can teach to others.
Yeah.
That's what makes us valuable.
Yes, yes. And I think people forget about the people skills. They think everything is, the technical skills. Well, I have to go to school to get this because otherwise I can't get a job. Well, yeah, you can get the job, but now what? The soft skills are what really takes you, onto that road of success.
Yeah, I call them human skills, but I love it. It's realizing that those are the skills that really are going to drive you from, take you from 0 to 100 really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
Oh, great. So one last question. Let me let you out the door.
Okay.
When you leave a meeting, when you close the door, you get in your car and you drive away, what's the one thing you want people to think about Judy and selling in the skirt when you're not there?
That I really care about people, and that what they see, I'm authentic, and I'm also very funny, but that I'm authentic and that they can count on me.
And shy. Don't forget about shy.
Yeah. Well, I am a little shy, but I really want people to think of me as somebody that cares and has high integrity and respect. All of those, core values are really important to me. But I always want people to know that I want to bring value. When I stop bringing value, I'm out the door. I'm not going to do it anymore. But I want people to know when they close the door or when I get in my car that what they just saw is me helping and supporting them.
That's phenomenal. Judy, everything I see about you screams authenticity. I love selling in a skirt, and I love what you do. Thank you for being on the show. Hang out in the green room. I'll be right back. I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody.
All right. I'm here.
All right. Judy was an absolutely amazing guest. I love her energy. I love her passion. And I think that she just does amazing things. Every week we need to have somebody on this show that has that type of passion. My name is Ben Baker, and my company is Your Brand Marketing. Now, I'd love to work with you. We'd love to help you tell your story better, help you communicate to your audience why you're valuable to them. So they'll listen, they'll understand, and they'll want to engage with you. I want you to stop being commodity and start being a brand worth loving. So come and join us at www.yourbrandmarketing.com. I'd love to talk to you. But every Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, this is the YourLivingBrand.live show. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great day.